Hey everyone, welcome back. Dan Shields here, church guitarist. Welcome back, and today I wanted to talk about something that's sort of an important concept for guitar players, and that's connecting chords when you have like a static vamp. So, you know, if you're just playing over like a single chord, you know, a lot of times you'll hear guitar players, they'll just sort of strum a pattern or something like that. But when you hear keyboard players, especially gospel piano players, they want to like move the chords a little bit to make some interest. And for guitar players, that's a really hard thing to do. It's hard for us to get our heads around, hard for us to hear. So I'm going to play you an example of something that maybe a keyboard player would do and what we would do. So let's say that I have like a static vamp here. I'm going to just do like, it's like an R&B type of thing. So I'm going to put a bass line underneath me, the magic of the looper. Now, if it just said C chord, which this whole thing could be under C chord, I could just be doing something like this. All right, so you hear that. Let me turn this up a little because I can't hear it well enough. But when you hear keyboard players, they do much more interesting stuff over top of this, and they might do something like this. All right, so that is having some connecting chords in your chords, and it gives a lot more interest when you're doing stuff. You could also make out little lines out of that thing, so, you know, so you can put little like connecting ideas, melodic ideas underneath this. So let me walk through what I just did there and what the concept of this thing is, and then I'll show you some specific exercises for it. The concept, first of all, is just making a connection between the triads that you have. So in this case, I'm in the key of C, and I've got 3 different triads. Of course, you only have 3 triads per string set. So there's my first one, there's my second one, and there's my third one. So these are my 3 C chords, C, E, G, E, G, C, first inversion, second inversion, G, C, E. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a chord in between each of those, and one of the best chords to do this, there's a couple different ways of going about it, but one of the best ways to do this is just take the 2 chord. So in this case, I'd be in the key of C major. That would be the D minor chord. So I'm going to take my D minor chord, and I'm going to do all 3 inversions of that D minor chord, and I'm going to place them in between the C major chords. So watch. C major, D minor, C major, D minor, C major, back to D minor, and then back. It almost sounds like South African music when you hear it. Really cool sound though. Now, what you can start to do then is I would start with just 2 of them. You could actually start just as a first exercise. And then you can go through them. Go through all of them. Picking them as you go along. And even that sounds pretty cool, and if you put just a little bit of rhythmic interest, it would sound really cool. It would work over top of stuff. But what I like to do, and what I hear a lot of the R&B guys do, is they'll actually play through these things with a little bit of rhythm. So I'm going to give you a quick exercise for that. So if we take our C chord, and first of all, if I just get something like this going. So I'm sliding into it. You notice my wrist and my right hand's really loose. See, I've gone up to that D minor. Da, 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 da. And it starts to sound really gospel. Okay, now I'm going to take it from this to this, up to that one. And of course, you can do it a little bit slower as you start off. So that would be the first connection. And then I can take it back down. So. Like if I put that bass line underneath it, 3, 4. cool. Then I can take the next one. I can do the same thing. Sorry, my loop, it has a little bit of a blip in the loop, but you get the idea of what I'm doing. So basically, I'm just taking these rhythmic ideas and I'm making it into like sort of a concept that I can, you know, move around. So you can do that in any key. So for instance, let's say I switch that into the key of G, then my chords would be G major and A minor. So I could do... So you hear the ideas, and you know, I'm just sort of making up these rhythms off the top of my head, but you could play with those, and that way, if you get into like a more static type of vamp where, you know, somebody's just doing, you know, instead of just... play some more like interesting stuff like you hear in the R&B or gospel players. So hopefully that's a good idea for you. You can practice that a little bit, and you know, as always, if you like what you heard, make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe to it, and maybe put in the comments below some of the things that you do for those same sort of ideas of moving from one chord to another when you're more on static vamps. So until next time, God bless.